besties, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're doing very well. So, hello, we have got to get into what is happening here. Okay, so this James Charles situation that's going on right now, I've made it very clear that I don't like looking at this situation that's going on with James or any of the other ones along the same lines with James Charles, because it seemingly is like a pattern of behavior here. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about with James Charles, I made a video on it, but basically James Charles got exposed again, and I mean again, like exposed again after again and again and again, for being inappropriate with minors. Now, first of all, why does this keep happening? Let's look a little bit further. Do we want to look a little bit into this? Please, be my guest. First time with Taddy Westbrook, James Charles was getting called out for allegedly being inappropriate with, or no, that was whenever he was as well. That was the straight men scandal. Remember that with James Charles? Because there's been so many. So we'll grip that with, you know, the first kind of scandals. We were like, oh, you know, everyone's coming for James, whatever. The second time was whenever James was, you know, someone came forward, an underage person, about James, you know, being kind of flirty with them, whatever, and people were saying they were clout chasing. Then, remember, like, 2 months ago, was it the 14-year-old came forward with their text messages and their experiences with James Charles being inappropriate towards him, and it was, this is fake, that kid's a clout chaser, the kid's trying to bully James, the kid's trying to ruin James, all like this, and it was all that the kid was, and it is a kid, 14 years old. It was that the kid was looking for clout, was trying to, you know, write off a James name, whatever like that, and James was able to do that from the controversy, and most videos, most clips, most tweets from around that time got censored, got deleted and stuff, and, you know, that story never really got told past a certain extent because it was shut down. So whenever a 16-year-old comes forward, like, within the past week, with his experience with James Charles and is showing the messages and Snapchats that James Charles is allegedly sending him, where James Charles is posing nude and all of these really disgusting pictures that James Charles is sending a child, allegedly. And it's like, do I have to, you know, wrong hand. Allegedly. Do I have to do that whenever James Charles releases a statement being like, you know, I'll do better? Do better for what? So it was true or not? Let me know. Allegedly. And just a 16-year-old. James is in his 20s. This was a fan of James Charles. James Charles realized that the fan, the 16-year-old fan, followed him on Instagram, so James Charles wants to add him on Snapchat. Already very inappropriate. Then starts messaging with him, starts wanting to see his body, allegedly, his body hair, allegedly. All these different things that were in the video of, you know, the 16-year-old came forward. You can look for that video if you want. I'm not going to put it on my platform. You can look for it if you want. But just know that that's kind of loosely what was happening here. And so, now, with James Charles, can we not look at this as in, why does this keep happening? Maybe it's not. People are trying to use James for clout. Maybe it's James is doing these things every single fucking time to different people, and now everyone's coming forward. So, Trisha is coming for James and is making it very clear where she stands on this. And honestly, good for Trisha. I'm so much more grateful for a YouTuber who stands their ground regardless of if they're going to get backlash or praise or lose friends or whatever, makes their standpoint and opinions of this very clear on where they stand, rather than just like fence hopping or fence riding and, you know, being on both sides, because, you know, they don't want to attack James in case James gets popular again. And one thing I'll credit Trisha for was that's never stopped her, and it never has. She's been calling James out for his inappropriate relationship with Charli D'Amelio now for quite some time and getting attacked for it. It's also interesting to note that a lot of us, including myself, shut down Trisha for saying that, you know, James's friendship with Charli D'Amelio was inappropriate, even though she was 16. But now we know that James is allegedly going after 16-year-old boys, so what's the difference? You know what I mean? Let's read these tweets by Trisha. She's done a bunch of tweets, and you know what? Good for her. Regardless of if I agree with everything she's saying in these, the fact that she's not being silenced not being scared to speak out, not just, you know, oh, being it's so frustrating. This is why people like this get away. People like this are dangerous. Allegedly. Trisha tweeted and said, why are these new allegations against James Charles a surprise? Question mark, question mark, question mark. He's been saying his best friend is a 16-year-old girl for the last year, since she was 15. James is a 21-year-old man, not even an adult teenager. Shaking my head. He's a groomer. That's a straight up fact. That was the first one. Then she tweeted, James Charles and Sia get away with grooming under the guise of being a mentor. That's disgusting. It's how a lot of these child essay cases go unnoticed. I hate it so much. And it's interesting to note that James did that video towards Trisha Paytas where he was calling her out. And I remember in the moment, including myself, I was like, wow, look at him like going after her. Like, good on you, James. Like, standing up for yourself, you know, against Trisha calling you out for the inappropriate relationship with Charlie. But now we're seeing this, now we're seeing this, now we're seeing this, a pattern of behavior, a pattern, we're seeing da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And we're starting to see the truth here, allegedly. Or at least speculate what the truth is with what's being presented to us. Right? Interesting how he wasn't quick to, you know, attack Trisha this time, but was the last time. Then Trisha tweeted, Courtney Studden was groomed under the same guise of mentor, teacher. The power play is the ultimate way, I'm not gonna say that word, control the victims and make it seem like it's the victim's fault once shit hits the fan. Here's a clip. So basically that James in the video coming after Trisha like a couple months ago was like, I'm a mentor to Charlie and she needs a mentor and I wish, you know, if I was that famous, that young, like I had one and I'm gonna be that for her, and Trisha, you're the one who's disgusting and you're the one who, all these different things, like, since that initial point was brought up by Trisha where, you know, James was saying that he was a mentor, she's had an issue with that consistently. And, you know, she hasn't ever not had a problem with that with James. So someone tweeted and said, Trisha Paytas, he stated they lied about their age, in the person who came forward against James, the 16-year-old. I haven't seen the other guy's allegations, so I don't know the whole situation, so I could be wrong. Then Trisha tweeted, so keep in mind, Trisha is being very engaged in this, like not even doing her own tweets, but also on top of that responding to like anyone responding to her tweets. That shows how into this, you know, she is, and like speaking up for the people who are literally speaking up against James and being silenced. The 16-year-old who came forward against James, his video is getting flagged and censored on every social media. TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. Why? So James Charles can be back on Friday to post another shitty YouTube video? Let me know, you know what I mean? So Trisha responded to this tweet and said, it's not on the minor, ever. Minors are underdeveloped, naive, dumb, etc. Of course, they lie about their age. It's up to the adult to verify this information. Also, if you're an adult and you think the person you're sexting is lying about their age, shouldn't that be your first concern? I'm over giving James, you know, little leeway points or, no. Like, it does not add up and it doesn't make sense, and that's whenever you have to start being like, okay, it seems like he was aware all of these times and that it's seeming a pattern and that's who he's been going after. It's up to the adult to verify this information. Point blank, period. Check the ID, as in, because then James was like, I'm gonna have to check the ID of every person I'm gonna be with. Do it then. Because seemingly that you just have a thing for, you know what, I'm not gonna finish that sentence. Check the ID, but if you don't want to and still question it, he, she, they are too young for you, bro. So basically, if you have to start thinking about IDing people, maybe they're too young for you. Fucking weirdo. So then she tweeted, and it was in response to James's statement, where James was saying, there's a video going around about me on TikTok and I want to address it right now. I have not groomed this person. Last week he saw someone on his Instagram Explore page. He followed them, added them on Snapchat. The next morning he woke up to snaps from this person and saying that he loved him, and then Basically this entire thing justifying why he did it. And then he goes on to say, we haven't spoken since. I'm not a victim blaming and I'm not victimizing myself, which is what he did the entire time. I unfriended him. We haven't spoken since. After false allegations like this, I would never knowingly engage with someone underage and put my life on the line for a few Snapchats. But you did, allegedly, James, because we're seeing the Snapchats, right? And you're tweeting in the past day saying, you know, I'm gonna grow from this. Grow from what? If it isn't true, then... You know what I mean? Because of situations like this, instead of taking someone's word for it, I will now ask to see the ID or passport of every guy I have a conversation with. And so he's saying that he didn't do any of this, but then he's saying that, you know, oh, he lied to me about his age. So you did engage with you getting pictures of him and you sending pictures of you to him? That's a crime. So Trisha responded to this tweet. I also want to note it's quite funny that Trisha was on Safari on James Charles' Twitter because he has her blocked. So that was the only way she could see this tweet. Trisha said, dude, what? James Charles has just admitted to sexting with a minor. Do not victim shame, period. But victim shaming a child is disgusting. Do not put blame on someone else for your grooming or predator behavior. So then she responded as well to the exact same tweet and said, this is James Charles. It is now fact that he sexted with minors. His best friend is 16-year-old Charlie D'Amelio. This is repeated predator behavior on underage boys. He is sick in the head. It's a disease. He needs help. People fuck up once and learn. He needs an intervention. So then she tweeted one final tweet and said, anyone defending James Charles right now is probably underdeveloped mentally as well as very young. Know that this is not appropriate. It's not okay. Grown adults have no business flirting with you. Children see this as cool because they idolize you. There are long-term damaging consequences involved in this. And I think what's very scary is the fact that James Charles fans are defending this. And it's like, they're defending this so hard that if James was ever to reach out to them, this would probably happen again because it's so engraved in them that they're so excited to talk to James, whatever, and he feeds into this, in my opinion. It's all this power imbalance, and different celebrities and YouTubers, in my opinion, use power balance for different things. Making money, getting more clout. With James Charles, this seems to be his constant use of the power imbalance. Can I tell you something as well? I wasn't going to include this in the video. You know who you are out there. The James Charles fan. And James Charles does not care about you. And you're aware of this. You know, we followed each other on Twitter. And you had a problem with me speaking out against James. Or anyone speaking out against James. Because he was your friend and you wanted to protect him. Even though James dropped you like that before. This is what we're dealing with here with James Charles fans, right? It's so engraved in them that anything James does is okay. And you know what it dates back to? The Bi Sister. This happened to him. Okay. Awful event. Awful. But look what he's been doing since that. Okay, you want to focus the conversation on Jeffrey, on Taddy, on Shane? Let's do that. But also, in real time, let's focus the conversation on James Charles, who's also doing what you're accusing them of. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
It's ridiculous. This is such, like, in such a sensitive topic and people still aren't taking it seriously. I want to know what your opinion is, though. On Trisha's tweets, on Trisha, you know, standing her ground every time against James. And, you know, she's been doing these tweets to James now for a while. But now, you know, has a situation that she can tweet about. I want to know what you're thinking about this. We can talk about it below. I want to know what you think about this overall thing and the constant pattern of behavior and the James Charles fans who are justifying this, who are the people who could be ever put in a dangerous situation because they're so lenient because James is their favorite person. That's all I'll say. We'll talk about it below. I'll be reading the comments, I'll be responding, I'll be hearting. Let's talk. It's so messed up. I love you. I will see you in my next one. And bye, bestie.